Was it last week that we
2 weeks ago
saw you? 2 weeks ago, you jumped
mm-hmm.
into the comments and had to invite you. It's funny how, as long as you've been doing your show, we've never reached out and had you on our podcast before now.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, great. Well, let's see if you say that afterwards. We're going to...
First of all, we're going to try to sell you some mulch.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know if I need any, but now that you mention it.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and start the formal part of our show. So, John, are you ready to go?
I am ready.
All right. Let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the RetroMacCast with James and John. This is episode, 532, I think it is, for July 5th, 2020. I screwed all that up. John, are you there, John? Good morning.
Good. Yes, good
I think
morning.
I got that right. I've got so many windows open that I dropped my most important window behind everything else. So.
Of course, yes.
But it is 5:32. I have confirmed that. We are joined by Steve from the YouTube channel Mac84. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
And where are you right now? I mean, besides in your mad scientist room.
I'm located in New Jersey, so we got some 90-degree weather scheduled for today. So it's a good place to be in the basement.
I think we'll have you beat down here in Florida.
Yes.
Oh, we'll have you beat on the temperature, and we'll have you beat on the numbers that everybody's tracking.
That's a contest I don't want to win in. So you're welcome to take the prize.
So that's why it's good to stay inside forever.
Absolutely, right? Yes.
Stay out of the heat.
Stay inside. Recap some maps.
Safe.
Get yourself to be productive.
Gosh, it's been a while since we've had somebody join us for the whole show.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to do that fairly regularly. I don't know. We got out of practice. But it's a lot more fun with more people.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And especially on the video chat, too. So
yeah, this is really neat. I'm enjoying this. So thank you.
Well, and of course, you are no stranger to live streaming, are you, Steve? You've been doing it for a while.
Yeah. A year and a half, 2 years, something like that. And
oh, wow.
It's really funny because it's something that I had zero experience doing, of course. So I was used to maybe cutting together clips in iMovie or then later Final Cut Pro and making a video and releasing it and fine-tuning all the audio levels, making sure I didn't flub my lines and everything. And then once you do like a live stream, I think I actually started on Instagram or Facebook. It's just a whole different world because you have no control over what happens. All of a sudden the camera decides to die, or your audio sounds like garbage. You can't really troubleshoot it live. Well, you can, but you're at the mercy of your audience. It's a very interesting experience, and it almost in a sense is sort of like a double-edged sword, because if you do a live stream, it's like you have this instant gratification of, I'm doing this, I'm putting this content out there. I'm getting a reaction from the audience. There are perks to doing a live stream. Maybe if you have the monetization of YouTube, you could get some tips and stuff like that. But then it's like, okay, well, I got that out of my system, but there's this backlog of videos I still want to edit and cut and release. But it gives you that satisfaction of like, oh, great, I could do this little live stream. I could show something. And it works best for, I think, some things that are free flowing, like if you're repairing something and you have no idea what is going to end up with it. Or if you're just tinkering with something and you're like, you know what, I have no idea if I could fix this, but let's just put it on the bench, put a camera on it. I'm going to be doing this anyway. and let's just see where the evening takes us, and that's where I get, often reminded from my fans of like, oh, let's do another 8-hour live stream, because I honestly can't remember how many times it's happened, but I've gone and went to repair something, and that led to something else being a problem. And it's just like, I want to get it off my bench. And I'm sure all of us have been there. It's just like, I just want to get it working. I had a dinner break and such, so I wasn't that crazy, but yeah, it's pretty wild.
Well, we're going to learn more about Steve and his channel a little later in the episode. So hold those stories.
Yes.
But normally what we do at the top is talk about new members, but we don't we didn't get any this time in the Facebook channel, or the Facebook group, I should say. So we'll skip past that and just talk about what we're going to talk about, which is, of course, eBay finds coming up. Then we're going to talk to Steve about kind of his background, how he came to be so excited about Macs and working on them.
Oh, yes.
And then, let's see, we'll have some news after that, right? John, anything I'm missing?
No, nothing. I'm looking forward to, in a couple of weeks, we get the virtual Kansas Fest, but we'll talk about that more as it gets closer. So
yeah,
I'm
sure.
looking forward to that too.
And share with us your shirt.
Oh, yes. All right. So today's shirt is Beagle Brothers. Yes.
Oh, nice.
Right.
Love that logo. Love the Beagle Brothers.
Perfect for Kansas Fest.
Absolutely.
The Beagle Brothers, they never jumped to the Mac, did they?
Yeah, no, they did.
They did.
They had a couple of programs for the Mac.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
they did. Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, I used to love Beagle Brothers, and then I've got a One Infinite Loop shirt.
Oh, nice. Very good.
Bought at the Apple store there.
I have a shirt that I'm not wearing right now. It is one that I picked up at Macworld, and
hey.
Hey,
shirt.
nice.
Don't worry, Steve never has to know. Oh, Steve being Steve Jobs.
It's a virtual PC. Shirt.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
Awesome. Yeah,
the
awesome.
Windows Millennium logo on there dates it considerably, but yeah, that's a fun shirt.
Wow. Derek is telling us that BeagleWorks was on the Mac, and it later became Symantec GreatWorks. So Symantec picked them up. That's awesome.
Wow, that's a change.
All right, good trivia. Okay, well, we'll be right back with eBay finds. All right, that was the first segment. Everybody pat themselves on the back. All right, let's see. I guess you've got the three we're going to talk about there, Steve?
I do.
And John.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to switch it over to, let's see how this, oh, look at that. We're little.
Ooh.
We're little. We're going to, those are from last week. All right. Whenever you guys are ready.
I am ready.
All right, let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's time for the eBay finds. Let's take a look at those auctions from last week. The vintage Apple Computer Mac OS wall clock promo. Look at that, the little Lucite blue Apple logo.
I like it, but not $200 like it.
Well, you weren't the only one, because nobody
bought it. Yes.
Nobody $200 liked it, as it still sits out there as a buy it now for $198.
And $25 shipping. That always gets me. You pay so much.
Well, it comes from Japan. They got it shipped out from across the planet, so cut them some slack. Now this one, the Macintosh SE/SE30 translucent Mac Effects glow in the dark case with extra sold after 18 bids for $503.
Yeah,
I think they did a pretty successful Kickstarter. So this is, I guess, one of the
and I think that's actually more. I think that's actually more than the Kickstarter it would have cost you if you had purchased it via the Kickstarter. So,
well, your fear of missing out. You gotta grab it afterwards, I guess.
Right. Well, I mean, usually that's the point of jumping in early, right? Is to get a little cost savings.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And a little
free
risk.
shipping. So come on.
There you go.
What you waiting for?
And if you wanted a Worldwide Developers Conference souvenir from 1999, you can pick up this.
That's
little
cool.
bag.
That's a nice looking bag. Really,
$70, still available.
I've seen more expensive bags that were not as attractive.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to this week. We'll start off with a set of playing cards featuring Apple logos. Let's see what the description says here. Just says rare.
You got a couple of packs of these, don't you?
I do. Oh yeah, he's talking to me.
I might have to borrow one.
From 1998, they say the box is in poor shape, but the cards are in great shape. I bought them on a trip to One Infinite Loop. Speaking of One Infinite Loop, in 1998.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't realize these were sold in the store. I know they were available in the catalog back then, and I wound up picking up a bunch of them.
That's really cool. Yeah, I've seen them on eBay once in a while, but I've not at a price where I was comfortable with purchasing playing cards at.
Yeah, I mean, this is they're really nice. The nice thing about this is because the artwork seems to be original for these cards. I've never seen these stylized icons like this, right?
Yeah, I think it's all original art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, because even the icons themselves, do those look like they don't even look like icons?
No, yeah, they look like they're airbrushed equivalents, you know, like
right,
very illustration-y. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah,
I'm sure someone on a hard drive has all the Photoshop files for that.
Right.
Whether they know it or not.
Well, they want a starting bid of $130. I buy it now of $220. I've seen these things now. This isn't in the best of shape. I've seen them like in really exquisite condition sell for much more.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's a really neat item. I would not pay that much for playing cards, but they're really cool. I can admit that.
I guess it is nice that they are open because now you don't feel so bad using them.
That is true. Or looking at all the pretty pictures, because otherwise I have playing cards that have the Windows Vista logo on it that I don't think are as valuable at all.
Of course, these days, if you're enterprising, you could scan this stuff in and you could
make a set,
reprint your own.
Yeah,
that's
right. There's a nice call from Apple's lawyers, maybe.
Well, I wouldn't recommend putting up for sale.
Yes, for enthusiast use only, of course.
That's right.
That's right. Yes, I like that.
Well, this has 8 days to go. It ends on July 13th. It ships from Chelsea, Massachusetts. Okay, John, what do you got?
All right, next up, this is a fantastic find. It's a vintage recapped Macintosh SC30 with the SCSI to SD card inside. So
nice.
Right now, this still has 5 days ago. It's at 36 bids. It was for $370.
Wow.
But yes, it is it's got 32 meg of RAM. Trying to see if there's any other details as far as like if this has any problems. Does not sound like it. Looks like the floppy disks successfully and it ejects, so that works great. This is I when I got the one that's in my clear case back here, I did the same thing. I found somebody who had recapped it and had SD. I think I paid about $250. So you can see that. Yeah, I mean the SC30 is a very popular system. And the fact that this has been recapped and has the SCSI SD, this is going to go for quite a bit higher by the time it's all said and done.
Yeah, the starting price was $1.
It looked like at one point they had I'm going to guess probably a network card or something in the back, so it's actually missing the port cover on the back.
Okay, good eye.
Yeah, but yeah, still good buy. You know, this is doesn't look like they're trying to gouge the shipping or anything like that. Yeah, this one's gonna go.
So like the 36 bids right now.
Yeah.
$370.
Right.
Ends on Friday, and ships from Alexandria, Virginia. I mean, this is still early in the bidding.
Exactly.
I mean, how high will this go?
Yeah,
I'm guessing at least $500 for a global audience like that. I'm guessing at least $500.
Well, now that we're
not saying I agree with it, but my guess.
Now that we're streaming this live on YouTube to millions of people, the popularity. I'm surprised the bid ticker is not going up as we talk about it. I should refresh the page.
That's right.
Anybody... See who's lucrative in our chat.
Come on, chat room.
Some goodies.
Come on, chat room. Let's bid this thing up.
All right. Saying they were about to buy that WWDC bag, so who knows?
And finally, the title is Vintage Apple Macintosh G3 All-in-One, the M4787 with G4 CPU, USB, FireWire, keyboard, and mouse. This is the
Molar
fairly
Mac.
Rare, the Molar Mac. Exactly. Of course, only made for educational institutions. You love it or you hate it, the design, but this thing is quite.
Those are
something.
interesting to me. I've used one once. My father used to have it at his old job. He did graphic design stuff, and I think it was probably the cheapest G3 they could get their hands on. And they were an educational institution, so I don't know how they bought it, but they bought it somehow. I don't know if it was surplus or what. And it was a pretty zippy machine. Obviously, it didn't have a G4 upgrade in it, but I just remember loving that the zip drive was built right in. I'm like, oh, that's great.
Yeah, this one says it's tested and works great. CRT is bright and crisp with no burn-in. The original G3 was replaced with the Sonnet Encore ZIF G4 running at 400 megahertz. Got a fresh PRAM battery, fresh install.
I say besides having the FireWire Ethernet card, FireWire USB card in the back, it's got the full-up wings personality card.
Oh, yes.
The, AV in and out, which is nice too.
Which sadly does not work on OS 10, but it works fine on 9. So
look at that. And of course, this was in a nice era where they started experimenting with translucent plastics.
So, speaking of translucent plastic, if you look on the top, it looks like it's got some cracked areas, and it's missing one of the screw covers.
Oh, good eye.
Wow, really sleuthing this one. Yeah.
Well, that's it. I'm not bidding anymore.
Well, obviously, people don't care because look at the bids.
Yeah, this was about $300 or so when you first shared the link to me before. So this has gone up after a day or so. That's
You can see the fine cracks. I bet stuff was stacked on top.
I bet.
Yeah.
Oh, probably not another one of these because otherwise it would totally. Yes.
Yeah. I regret passing one of these up, and it was like 2010 or 2011, maybe a little later than that. It was like $20. The monitor didn't work. But it was like $20 or best offer, and I thought to myself, oh, maybe I could fix that. But I was not into like touching CRTs at that point or trying to fix anything that was analog, so I passed. But who knows where that machine is now.
Well, this one has 18 bids. It ends on Friday. Again, up to $450. It also ships from Alexandria. Did anybody see? Is this the same seller as the
I was just going to go back and check.
Like, this person's got quite a stockpile of interesting Macs.
It is indeed
the same seller. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Wow.
Awesome. Oh, that's a very dangerous rabbit hole. If you just click on what the seller also has, and it's like, well, if I get combined shipping, maybe it's not as bad.
Color Classic 2 guys. With a 640 by 480 mod.
Oh boy!
Wow, this person is selling some stuff.
Oof.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll see how high this gets next week.
Yeah. Place your bets.
Okay.
Who's got a G3 upgrade card that'll work in the 20th anniversary Macintosh?
Oh,
very
wow.
Nice.
Let's see. Let's look at what else. Oh yeah, the Color Classic.
Wow, very the Color dangerous
Classic too.
Is G4 upgrade? $59. Wow.
All kinds of goodies. Look at that. All right, Steve, you're the subject of the next segment.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Ooh, look at the 040 upgrade for the SC30.
Oh, geez. No. Don't look at this, Steven. It's bad ideas.
Don't look at the light, Marion.
Yeah. What do we do? Keep your eyes shut.
This one right here, $34.
Wow. Oh, that's going to go for much more than $34. Add a few zeros to that. Wow. Oh, that's neat, though.
Gosh,
you don't see one of those every day.
Yeah,
the riser card, which means you'd be able to use you'd still be able to use your Ethernet card with it.
Ooh. No SCSI to Ethernet adapters for you, yeah.
All
right.
Okay, John, you ready to go?
I am all ready.
Okay, let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, we are back. We kind of partially introduced Steve at the beginning of the episode, but now let's dig in deep here and get his whole origin
the hard
story.
Questions. Yeah.
Do you want to switch over to
the
screen? And we'll.
Thanks for pointing that out. Let's do that.
I live on eBay, so that's fine.
Let's see everybody here. All right, let's start at the beginning.
Sure.
Well, at least not Well, at least you're beginning with Apple computers, and see how
Okay.
you got your start, so we can see what
Well,
your
that's not a hard one. So I was introduced to Macs by my father. So he had a job that was related to design and graphics and such. So obviously, when he had to start getting a job that used computers, that computer was a Macintosh. And I remember him telling me that he learned how to use Quark on a Macintosh SE. So just imagine a page layout program on a 9-inch CRT monitor.
Oh yeah, I've done that before. Mhm.
Yeah. So what a way to learn. So I think the machine that we ended up getting was around 1990 or so, and it was a Macintosh 2CX. And so that was the first family computer that we had. 13-inch color monitor, image writer 2, roster ops, like 32-bit graphics card, that 12-inch long NUBUS card. And I think we found the receipt when they were moving, and I think his company helped him pay for it, which is I think the only way that he could have even thought of affording this, because it was something like $11,000 for color monitor, color printer, color graphics card, hard drive on the TCI, memory upgrade, dust cover for the printer, all those bells and whistles. So growing up, that was the computer that we had.
Mhm.
And since he worked in a graphic design place, they always wanted the latest and greatest stuff. And for the longest time, I thought that the next computer that they got, I thought that was one that he purchased. No, it just was old stock that the company didn't want anymore. And that was a Power Macintosh 7500 that he brought home. So that became the adult computer, the work computer. And then the 2CX became the kids computer. So me and my brothers would play on that, which it was comparable for some games, but other games, we would get a CD-ROM for Christmas. We'd have an external CD drive, and the 2CX was not having LucasArts games from a CD-ROM. It was
curious. What games were you playing? What were your
that
favorites?
was Rebel Assault. Mortimer was this educational title by LucasArts. I remember that being quite fun. There was a bunch of Warner Brothers stuff, like an Animaniacs title. Prince of Persia was a fun one.
Oh yeah, okay.
I remember we didn't have the full version though, so I had to guess there was these little potions on the second level, or when you went to the second level, and you had to guess what letter of the manual was in what sentence or whatever. I guessed it once, and I was so proud of myself to get that second level. I then soon died, and that was it. But I think I got it used for the Sega Genesis for $10, and I had to explain to my father, this is the same game that was on the Mac, but it's just for the Sega, because it had an MA13 rating logo. That's when they started putting the ratings on video games.
Oh, okay.
And it said blood and violence. And of course, it's so pixelated you can't even see what's going on. But yeah, that was a fun one. And I see in the chat, Dark Forces, that was another fun one. That was a fun game, another Star Wars title. But it was great having a Macintosh that was basically that's the kids' computer. They could mess with it. So I would thumb through my dad's, Mac User or Mac Week magazine, and if I found any CDs or discs that he brought home from the office, I would play around with them and just see what we could make work. And there were plenty of times where I messed something up, and he had to come to the rescue because I had no idea what I was doing. I was just a kid.
So when did it switch from you playing games to you actually opening them up and messing around?
That was actually pretty early. I want to say I was probably 13 or 14 or so, and maybe a little younger than that. But I remember there still is a museum called the Liberty Science Center in the tri-state area. So it's the New York, New Jersey area. And there was a program where you basically brought junk, and you got points for bringing in this junk for them to recycle or whatever. And depending on how many points you got, if memory serves, you were able to get something else. So I think what happened is we traded an old Xerox machine that my dad got from his office that just was taking up space and didn't work too well anymore. And I think one of the old image writer printers that we had. And in exchange, I remember getting at least one PowerBook Duo 230. It might have been a pair of them. I'm not 100% sure. But it was missing the battery, didn't have the floppy drive, didn't have the dock or anything. It was just bare bones. And I remember thinking oh my gosh, I have a laptop. I had no idea the specs of it. I had no idea that it probably needed a new hard drive or anything. I didn't have the power cord for it. It was just like super bare bones. Like it could have been just junk. I was just thrilled to pieces. And so me and a friend, he was a PC guy, but you know, he of course, you know, growing up, you don't always have so many Mac friends. But we tinkered around, and I think what we ended up doing is it was either we got 2 machines from that place or 1 machine was from my father's office, and they were similar enough. We got 1 working machine, and I just remember booting it up and like, oh, the screen's black and white, but I didn't care. You know, I was like, it's a laptop. I got a laptop. This is cool. And so that was, you know, between me and my brothers, we played around on the laptop. We eventually got a dock somehow for it. It was probably sitting around my father's old office. And that was probably one of my first experiences tinkering around with it. I do remember having to take the 2CX to the kitchen table because I think I tried to play Doom on it, and I think it changed the resolution to a resolution the monitor didn't support, and the screen was just going all wavy, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And my dad's like opening it up, reseating the graphics card, and turned out it was just the resolution was set, you know, to something it didn't like. And it was it was a little difficult in those days to force it to go back to the default settings without a keyboard or mouse or a screen. So yeah, fun times.
So that was a while ago. And so then if we fast forward to the start of your channel, what was the impetus for that?
Well, ever since, let's say the late 90s, early 2000s, you know, I was always going to flea markets and yard sales with my family. You know, you don't have a car, so you just go wherever your parents go. And I always liked looking at electronics and things. I didn't know much about them. Like, hey, this thing looks cool. What's $1? Okay, I'll you know, what little money I had, I'll take it and play around with it. So by the early 2000s, I've amassed a pretty good collection of machines, either from stuff my parents used to use or old stuff friends would give me, or just broken things I would get cheaply. And sometimes I'd be able to get something to work. Other times they'd just sit in the corner of the room for ages, not being touched. And so I think it was around 2008 or so, I went on YouTube as a different account. And I sort of got into following some people, and I made 1 or 2 videos on a different channel. I was featured on MacRumors.com for a day. I think it was me video recording a game for the iPod video, not the Touch, but when they had the games on the click wheel iPod.
Oh yeah,
and I think I think that has like a 250,000 views or some crazy number. It's been sitting on the internet so long. I think YouTube gave me like $10 for that over like 10 years. But
Cha-ching!
Exactly. Yeah, that's what pays for all this. No. So all that stuff is like, you know, in the back of my mind, and I saw some other people doing tech YouTube channels and blogs and stuff, and it's sort of what catapulted me is there was this one video where this guy was looking at the G3 all-in-one. So we just saw one on eBay. And one of the nicknames for it, I think, was called Molar Mac because it sort of looked like a tooth. And so this guy went on the whole video without even saying it was a G3 all-in-one. He just kept saying Molar Mac, Molar Mac, Molar Mac. And he was saying that the personality card in the back was a weird upgrade. He had like no information about this thing, but he was like spreading it like it was the truth. And I'm like, oh, this is not sitting well with me. And in the comments section, like there's a bunch of people like, no, you're insane. This is that. And so I made a comment that was something along the lines of like, well, actually, you know, here's, you know, not to sound like a dork, but, you know, I'm telling you what a personality card is. So I guess I crossed the line already. But, you know, it's like, hey, here's the AV card. Here's the sound card. Here's the one that had the modem with it, you know, all that stuff. And I started thinking, well, you know, I did a YouTube channel for a while that was all video game stuff. And I kept finding myself reading through, you know, pages of books and stuff, trying to figure out, you know, Wikipedia articles and how this links to that. And if I'm saying what is actually correct with these things, because although I'm a game dork too, like I'm not as into that stuff as I am the Macintosh stuff. And so I was working on a video for weeks and I was about to release it. And then somebody else did like the same exact topic I was, and I sort of gave up on that. So I took the wind out of my sails, but I'm like, you know what? Let me look around. And I'm like, there's a lot of Mac stuff I have, and I have experience with that. I don't have to really like look up details as much for that. So let me focus a channel on that. And that was 2017 when I decided to launch the Mac 84 channel. And the whole idea behind it was, let me like show these things in a historical light. Let me try and share some of the knowledge that's burned in my brain about this stuff. I don't know where I park my car, but I know, the memory limit of a Macintosh TV was 8 megabytes, silly stuff like that. So, I thought, let me use my powers for good here, and I'll do a little channel. And that's really what catapulted it off, was just, I think part of it also was a lot of these old websites that we used to go to and refer to, have either been, falling off the face of the web, or some forums are now no longer there where they used to be. And, I think a lot of us that were around at that time sort of retained some of that juicy knowledge, and just having the ability to share that stuff, I think is very valuable. And I always tell everybody on my live streams, like, look, I'm not like an expert here, but I'll try and figure it out. And if I find out that I was wrong, I'll let you know, because I'm not perfect with this stuff. And I know I've made mistakes before. Even while pointing out other people's mistakes, I've made mistakes.
Right.
So,
No,
not perfect.
It is amazing that we have these tools like YouTube and streaming video and all this stuff to share this knowledge, because it's think about it as an evolution and us sharing our hobbies, right? I mean, in the beginning with the internet, well, first there was the internet, and then we had message lists and all these things. People were emailing stuff around, and then at some point, audio podcasts. That's the reason John and I got into it, is because podcasts became a thing, and then we could start sharing our hobbies that way. Can you imagine 20 years ago if YouTube existed? How amazing that would be if you wanted to learn how to do something. I mean, now, whether it's RetroMax or how to fix a flat tire, the first thing you do is, if I'm going to learn how to do something, I look it up on YouTube.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it's such a great tool and a great thing that, not just YouTube, but these types of tools, like you're saying, to share knowledge of. And it's like, now you could just say, oh, could you send me a picture of it? Or you can send me a video of it. And people are like, oh yeah, I'll figure out a way to do that, and I think like the entry fee to get into this vintage Mac stuff is lowered on the technical mindset level, because you could share this knowledge. The eBay prices aren't making it easy for anybody, really, but at least if you come in and say, hey, look, I just got this Mac Classic, I don't know what to do with it, you're going to get a bunch of people on Facebook going, oh, you got to recap it, you got to take out the battery, you got to do this, you got to do that, So at least there's a group of us, and I feel that's a very good thing. I think the community is still very strong.
Oh yeah. You were talking about the websites that are dropping off. Yeah, there are a lot of websites that I'll go back occasionally, look at my bookmarks of all these great resources, and then the other day I went back, and I think 90% of them were just gone.
I mean, that's where I'm so thankful there's a thing of like the Wayback Machine on the Internet Archive at archive.org, because it's like some of these pages, even if it's just text, it's just gone. And it's really funny, because I'll get a machine that has a hard drive in it still, and one of the first things I'll do is I'll look at the bookmarks, I'll look at the cached pages and stuff, and once in a while I'll find like an old download for like Real Player or QuickTime or something, and once in a while it'll be something that like is not on the Macintosh Garden website, and I'll go and I'll upload it there and be like, look, I don't know if this is legit or not, but it was in the downloads folder, it's March 1998, have at it.
Is there a term for that, for computer archaeology? Is that something? I don't know.
I think that's something I'm probably a professor of. I don't even know it.
Right. You're like a modern day Indiana Jones.
Yes. Instead of the Holy Grail, I'm looking at Real Player downloads from the 90s.
So your channel is filled with all kinds of wonderful resources, especially for the person that wants to get their hands dirty and start fixing stuff. What do we have to look forward to? What do you have in the queue?
Oh boy, there's a lot. One thing I'm really trying to push out the door, and hopefully by promoting it, it's going to kick my butt into gear to actually do it. But I've been working on a sort of a video essay of the Macintosh clones. So that whole period of Apple's history. And the more I looked into it, because I just happened to get one at a flea market probably in 2010, 2011. And ever since I got it, I had no idea what it was, and I wanted to find out more and more and more. And while researching this stuff, I've met people who worked at like UMax. I've met people who, upgraded them, who have like, these ones from different companies. And I just learned so much about them. I'm like, let me do something about it. And I wrote the script. I think it was sometime in 2018, and I did I did a draft video that I put on my Patreon a while back, and then I did another one that was the script was pretty much locked down in January of 2019, and then I just kept getting emails from people being like, "Oh, well, you should cover this, you should cover that." So I decided I'm going to split it into multiple parts. But what I do in the video is I take a historical look at, hey, look, this is something that Apple did. And there's some very, very interesting little tidbits there of, what Apple did, because they were in a sore spot. Those of us who remember even, who were around in that period or who just read about it afterwards, Apple was sort of cornered into a wall there. And Steve Jobs, when he came back to Apple, did not like it at all. Right. And you're not gonna push Steve Jobs into a corner that he doesn't like and just get him to sit there. No, he's gonna kick his way out. And so I'll share with you one tidbit that I learned, which was very interesting, and that is during that time, the licenses with the clone manufacturers stated that Macintosh System 7 was what they had licensed to, and Apple was trying to get them to pay more than, I think it was $50 a computer. And so the idea was Apple was about to release System 7.7. And if they did that, the clone makers were free to use the OS without managing or any touching their existing licensing agreement or anything like that. And so what Apple did was they decided, well, we're not going to call it System 7.7. We're going to call it Mac OS 8. Completely separate, different number. So you're not allowed under your existing license agreement to use this new OS. Therefore, all your machines are outdated. And therefore, you have to come back to our bargaining table here and renegotiate our contracts. Right. And it was a very slick thing that Apple did, but it's a very Apple thing for somebody to do. So that was a really interesting tidbit. And there's a few other things I'd be happy to share once that video gets out the door. But it's nice. Been a labor of love, because it's the amount of research involved in that was probably one of the first in-depth videos I started working on. And so we'll see how fast I can get it out the door. But the idea is to have a multi-part series. One is talking about the history. Two is doing a shootout. So I have a power computing desktop and a UMax desktop. And I want to compare that to an existing Mac. And then I'll figure out something to do a part 3. But
cool. Well, we're looking forward to that. So let's see. That now we should probably plug your page and your various social media. Well, we know Mac 84 is the YouTube channel. Where else do they go to?
So I have a Twitter. So that Twitter handle is Mac84TV. So that's just MAC84TV. I have a Patreon as well. I think it's patreon.com/Mac84 or Mac84TV. One of those. I should know that better. But if you Google it, it'll come right up. But there's not too many imposters out there yet. And then on YouTube, there's a playlist. I think it's called Main Videos, and those are my scripted videos. So besides all the live stuff that you'll see me going crazy on for hours and hours on end, the scripted stuff is more bite-sized and like to a point, and hopefully better crafted than a live stream. And there are 2 particular videos I'd like to point out there related to the iMac G3. And the people I get messages from, they love those 2 videos. So I always like, all right, well, if they like them, I should promote them more. And one is the iMac G3. I think it's a 20th anniversary birthday restoration or something along those lines. And then the other one is one I did over the past few months. And that is the USB revolution and the legacy Macintosh I/O. And it sort of talks about, if you were an iMac owner, when these machines first came out, but you still wanted to use your image writer printer or a SCSI scanner or something like that. Like, how did you actually do that? Because it was a pretty big change. There was none of these legacy ports on the iMac, of course. So I go across some of the adapters that I have and some of the ones I wish I have, and show some of those. I think that was a pretty fun video to do. And that's one of the most popular ones I have. So cool. We got some comments and love in the chat from that as well. And if I could say, my channel, I do show, how to repair these things, but it's not something that I know 100% by my own. It's my friends at the MacCast podcast, and it's my friends like Brankus Creations, Bruce in the chat here. He has great, soldering tip videos and discharging CRT videos and stuff on his channel. And I just learned from that. I'm not an expert at this stuff at all, but by surrounding myself with smarter people, I appear smarter. So
all right. Well, everybody check those sources out, and thanks for joining us, Steve. I hope you'll stick around for the next segment.
Oh, yeah.
All right, perfect.
Cool. I'm going to
Nice.
paste the link in the chat now that I have my hands free
There you
and
go.
I'm not talking.
All right, we're moving on to the news.
All right. All right, I got to figure out which window it's in. Hang on.
So many windows open.
So many windows.
And you think getting a bigger screen helps, but it just complicates it.
So many windows.
James, do you want to show them what your screen looks like?
Oh.
Now that WWDC bag is following you.
It is. Look at this. They're tracking me all over the place. That's funny. Yeah, it's funny how you think, wow, that eBay seller, they are paying some big money to have their items put on the cover of ZDNet. That's something.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you, Google Chrome.
Yeah.
All right. Just a couple of stories here talking about sort of the fallout from.
We're going to do the countdown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
I am ready. Finally found it.
Let's go in 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, kind of a slow news week because we had the big news week from last week of WWDC. There's some fallout though, news stories from WWDC. People sort of digesting all the news of the big change that's upon us, right? The switch to Apple Silicon, the ARM-based Mac that's going to come out here soon, and we're going to endure yet another transition. How did you handle that last transition, Steve? The PowerPC to Intel transition.
It wasn't too bad. I got an Intel iMac in 2006, so the first wave of them. I remember watching it ship from Shanghai, China, and tracking it in its weird pattern across the U.S. But of course, by the time I got it, like a few months later, they released the Core 2 Duo model. So mine is the original Core Duo model. But I think that was like the fastest turnaround Apple's ever done in a product update in like years. So it surprised everybody. But I managed okay. I think it was more of waiting for the apps to actually hit the Intel scene. But I will never forget testing a beta that someone had given me of OS 10, and it was like hacked to run on a PC or whatever. And I put it on some junky Celeron eMachines tower that was like held together by duct tape and hope. And it flew on that machine. It absolutely screamed on that machine. And I'm like, you know what? I think the future is bright for these Macs, because if this crummy old tower can handle it, anything Apple does, it'll be 10 times better.
Well, we'll see what happens with the transition to the ARM-based Macs. This article over on ZDNet says ex-Windows boss Apple's ARM-based Mac will be the ultimate developer PC. We've heard from this guy before, Sinofsky. He's made some bold predictions, I think I remember in the past. But he says, quote, in 2 years, there is only ARM hardware, and in 4, Intel will be an ancient memory. The ecosystem will have rolled over, and Mac will be the ultimate developer PC. iPad will be used more and more for work, he said in a Twitter post. So, yeah, he's calling for the end of Intel.
That's
Don't sell your Intel stock just yet.
Yeah, that's a pretty bold prediction.
Yeah.
I think the numbers show that Apple just gets a small fraction of Intel's business as it is. I think it's in the single digits.
Yeah.
But I guess
I think it must be interesting though, because I hear that there is an ARM version of Windows that Microsoft has been pushing, and
they do.
It's not anything that's non-OEM at this point yet. But I could foresee eventually, because these chips are so efficient and such, that there will be a move to them. But I think it would be much harder to convince like an audience like Windows users to do that, where if you have, obviously, the Mac users are a smaller percentage of all the users in the world, but it's like, I think Apple is in a much better position to do a switch like that, because they've done it before. They know how to do that. And I think Microsoft is more of the camp of compatibility and legacy support for, the billions of machines they're installed on all throughout the world.
As much as they'd want to do that, they're trapped with their own inertia.
Yeah,
because I mean, they've made some of those moves, like having their own computers at all, for example. This idea of trying to mimic Apple's vertical integration. Boy, they would salivate at the idea because more money, right?
Of course.
Okay. Well, and then regarding that transition, it's all beginning with the developers testing out their software on a developer transition kit, which they've been getting out there to developers, and against the non-disclosure agreement that they're all theoretically supposed to have signed, the pictures and the benchmarks are coming out.
Which I'm glad. That's what I was waiting for.
It always happens.
It was only a matter of time. Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, that's what the internet's all about, doing everything anonymously, right? So
yes.
Whether you want to rail on a political issue or talk about your developer transition kit, there's a way to do it anonymously. And so the photos, because you weren't even allowed to take pictures. That wasn't explicitly in the non-disclosure agreement.
You're not allowed to open it, not allowed to take pictures. All that fun stuff.
Have we seen internal pictures? I'm not sure I've seen an internal picture.
I don't
yet.
think so. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody opens it up and there's a little camera peeking back at them. There's a little URL and it says, "Hey, look, this is the unique serial number. Don't take a picture of this."
Well, wouldn't that be funny? Because I'm sure they know the serial numbers.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the serial number is in a place like on the memory riser or whatever, where if they took a picture of, they're like, "Oh yeah, there's that guy. Let's call him up."
Well, or the thing could phone home. You connect it to the internet, and it can say, "Yeah, I was opened." By this user. But
they punch the serial number into a code, the Mac Mini gets legs, and it just flies back to Apple. Yeah.
Well, the benchmarks are out. I think you can go out to Geekbench, the popular benchmarking utility for the Mac, and you can see how it's performing. Of course, the figures are all preliminary, right? Because they're running Geekbench for the Mac, which of course is optimized for the Intel architecture, not the ARM architecture. So you would need either a Geekbench written for ARM in OS 11 or a Geekbench written for like iPad or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could throw on there. I don't think does that exist? I don't know or if they're easily able to run those apps yet in OS 11.
Yeah, that's hard to say still.
But the numbers look pretty good even under emulation. It's not too shabby.
No, it's not. I think that we are seeing that Apple has learned a lot from the PowerPC to Intel transition. So I hope that they are taking all steps to fix where they may have stumbled a little bit in the past, and hopefully by improving this Rosetta compatibility, we're not going to be seeing as much as a pinch in the performance of these machines, even if they are running code that has to be translated.
Did you guys see
I'm still, the fact that I love being able to use Boot Camp to boot Windows to play games on my MacBook Pro, which played games pretty darn well. We're going to just lose that. I mean, there's no way you're going to emulate fast enough to be able to play Windows games. I just can't see that.
Yeah. I mean, I was joking with the MacYak guys about we're going to get another PC compatibility card from Apple with the Intel chip on it, and you put in your system and you could run Windows, but. Right. I think that was a huge selling point, especially for businesses. I was I was privileged to be in some meetings sometimes, and people are like, "Oh yeah, you get them a Mac because you could always run Windows on VMware or Boot Camp or whatever." And I think that you're sort of more limited now. Of course, obviously there will be some type of emulation somebody will figure out, but
I think for
how fast it is,
for most business applications, I would think that's still not going to be an issue. It's not driving like games would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you think of all the stuff in the cloud too. You could spin up a cloud VM, and I'm sure it'd be more efficient and better latency and stuff than running it on hardware, and that's probably better for redundancy and all that stuff too. But for us people who just want to have one machine on their desk and run most of the stuff they want to run without having a KVM set up and all this stuff, it's going to take a transition period for people to figure out, how they're going to change their setups. But I'm not buying up one from the start anyway. I stay away from revision A's.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I'm looking forward to see what they do. What hardware they're going to sell first. Like, is it could just be a mini, for example, kind of like the transition kit, or will they come up with a new iMac, or what will it be?
I think it'll be interesting because if you follow the period that they did from PowerPC to Intel, the first one was a MacBook Pro and iMac, and the Mac Mini and the Mac Pro came much later on. But of course, with the original PPC to Intel transition, they gave the developer kit out as a Mac Pro tower, essentially, a prototype of it, or whatever you want to call it, a developer unit. And that was like one of the last models to be released. So if the Mac Mini is the one that they're handing out to people, I don't necessarily know if that's going to be the last one they release. It's probably going to be in one of the first models they come out with, if they're messing around with that form factor. And the Apple says they still have Intel machines that they're selling. So they're going to be selling. So I could totally see them releasing an Intel iMac and a Mac Pro tower and upgrades and all these little things here and there, but be very interested to see. We could only guess at this point of what their first machine will be. Probably an iMac or a laptop it would be my guess.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping for a whole new form factor. I mean, not like
nice.
At least some kind of
Something.
significant case change, because we've sort of been stagnant in that regard. I don't know, unless we've all given up and decided that we've reached the pinnacle of computer design.
Which I mean, really, it is pretty darn. I mean, you can't get any simpler. Certainly.
Yeah. It's either you put the electronics on the bottom of the screen or behind it. It's like, I love these people who are like, oh, I hate the chin of the iMac. It's so ugly. I'm like, well, where are you going to put the processor? Where are you going to put the fans? Like, come on. Like, yeah, there's only so much, with Apple's tapered metal design that you could shove fans in there, and I like, the way sort of things are set up where you could grab the screen and move it without getting fingerprints all over the top. But I'm sure somebody will come up with an ingenious way to do that. They'll put me to shame.
Action Retro said, bring the lampshade Mac back. And absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. That was, so
bring
good.
back the iMac G4. I'd love to have one. That'll be really cool. I've seen some mods of people shoving a Mac Mini in there.
Yeah. Yep.
That'll be neat. I mean, I'm sure there's still form factors that we haven't thought of yet, but Apple needs to get a little fun and whimsical again with their designs, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, they can afford to at that.
Yes, point. They definitely can.
All right, John, I stopped mine. I don't know about you.
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh, okay. Well, it's fine. All right.
Yeah, I'm just doing the backup audio in case.
Yeah.
No, sure.
Right, it's fine. Okay, well, we can do the outro. Let me do a quick check here. I had look something up. You guys talk amongst yourself for a second.
Oh yeah, so yeah, well yeah, so actually yes, Steve. So you actually do recapping, correct?
Yes, I do. Yes, and
so,
it's a skill I've recently acquired.
Yeah, that's I've done plenty of like through the board, but I've got an SE30 motherboard, and I bought a SMC, soldering kit. But I'm still very leery of trying to do it. How have you done any of the surface mount stuff yet?
Yeah, and it's honestly the best advice I could give you is to get an old board, an old PC board, something you don't care about at all.
All right,
and practice on it.
Okay,
desolder something back on. And all those stuff.
The soldering was actually pretty easy because the kit came with the heat gun with the very very focused, and so I was able to get the old caps off. I didn't.
But getting the new ones on is the trick.
Didn't lift any pads. Any of that. So it's going to be the obviously I can retin them, great. But it's how do you
Flux is your friend. So high quality flux is going to work wonders, and that's where I tripped up. I was being a cheapo. I bought the cheapest iron, the cheapest parts, and it worked out okay. The machine worked. That I was recapping, but a lot of the advice I've gotten was from that other channel I mentioned, Brankus Creations. He does a lot of soldering tips, and he does live streams of him recapping a Mac. It makes it look so easy because he has a microscope and a nice setup and everything.
Yeah.
And here I am with my glasses. I'm like, trying to see if I lifted a pad or not.
Right.
But practice makes perfect. I would highly suggest trying to solder the parts onto a junk board first, and just always desolder them.
Sure thing.
And just ask if you need help, because I've been there before.
All right, man.
All right,
Yep.
let's go ahead and close out the episode.
All right,
John.
yeah. So what is next week?
We'll figure it out
Oh, okay.
offline.
All right, sounds good.
Let's go ahead and you ready?
I'm all set.
Go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of the RetroMacCast. Next week is to be determined. John and I will figure something out, something cool to talk about. Our thanks to Steve.
Yeah.
Hey,
Thank
I
you,
appreciate it.
thanks for the whole episode.
Oh, of course. It's
Was
been a
it?
blast.
So at the beginning, you said it was a pleasure. Was it still a pleasure?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I could talk about this stuff for hours, as you probably can tell. So.
Excellent. Well, don't forget to check out Steve's channel on YouTube, Mac84.
Yep, we just passed,
And,
I think, 2,000 something
Oh,
subscribers.
wow.
So I was planning to do a giveaway, and then the number just blew past. So, oops.
Nice. And we
Gotta
see
figure
we've got some of your followers in our chat room. Thanks for
Yep.
bringing some of those folks over.
You're very welcome.
Hello, everybody out there. All right, John. I think we'll close it out. So
All right.
until next week, remember, it's not old.
It's retro.
All right.
I love that saying.
All right. Well, let's see. Now we can just hang out if you like.
Yeah, sure.
Action Retro said Brackus is the Bob Ross of soldering. So
Yes.
I love it.
That's how I learned all my stuff. And I
Oh, Brankus,
sorry
I'm sorry.
to plug so much, but really, like I would be lost without some of the videos that he's done, and just like simple like trace repair videos and stuff. I mean, again, he makes it look so easy, but just keep
Nice.
watching, and I promised myself I would never do like the surface mount caps, because I thought I can never do that stuff, and it's not too bad. So once you get into it, I'm still a little scared of the capacitors exploding as I'm using the heat gun to get them off, but that's another story.
Another one I recommend that I when I was redoing the one of the analog boards was James Wages does some really nice, and he's got a nice nice setup and stuff too. So I'm definitely going to check out some of the other ones you recommended.
Yeah, there's definitely a ton of videos out there, and obviously just keep watching the methods that work best for you, because some of these people have very high-end equipment and stuff like that.
Sure.
What I like about what Bruce has suggested to me always is like, look, you could go out and buy the expensive stuff, or if you're just starting, you could buy out this kit. It'll work fine for what you're doing, and it'll get you where you need to go, and you can always get another one later.
Yep.
And that's just the one I have. It's like a $50 hot air station, and it works fine. It's
okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I'm going to have to get into that
Well,
business here.
we
pretty
all
soon.
are. We all are. So we want to keep it.
And
Our
that
systems running.
was the kick in the butt for me, because I was lucky. I think I've only had one machine that was destroyed by a battery leak, LC 475.
Mine was a Mac 2 FX.
Oh,
It was stored sideways,
oh,
and it just it looked like a murder scene in there. It's not good.
yeah. I picked up a Macintosh TV from somebody who said it was an unknown condition. So I go there, I open the back door. It was stored on its side. The battery had exploded, obliterated the TV tuner card. There was, you couldn't tell what components were on there before. It was just a mess. So I have the case, which is in pretty good condition, and there's, I could put a new board in there, but
Sure.
It was like, my heart was like, no.
Yeah, one of my when was it? My resolution from like 2 years ago or something was to start turning on all my Macs.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And I have not really started that because
the first step I did was just take the batteries out before you can turn them on.
So kind of what's in your collection, Steve? What kind of
Oh jeez. I have over 150 Macs.
Nice.
At last count. Nice is one way to put it.
And
tripping over them is another way. Yeah, so I have just a bunch of machines, a lot of early stuff. So Macintosh 2, 2CI, 2CX, 2SI, a few Centruses, a few Quadras, none of the fancy Quadras. I have an 840 AV that I picked up for $5 in like 2007. It worked, and now I'm struggling with it. And it's been, I think it's one of the 8-hour live stream videos I was trying to tinker with it just to get it to work again. And I've tried recapping it. So there's a bit of a mystery on that, and I'm sure I'll spend more time on it forever. But a bunch of PowerPC stuff, some weird printers and scanners and old Apple things like that, a tape backup drive, some of that fun stuff. Some iBooks. Probably easier to list what I don't have. I don't have a TAM. I don't have the Quadra towers like the 900, those fancy ones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a Macintosh Portable. I don't have a G3 all-in-one, and I don't have a Macintosh SE30. And some of like
I know you can get one on eBay.
Yes, a little out of my price range, but I pretty much have one of every form factor, like the Duo Dock and those weird ones, But there's still some stuff on my list. I know in 2 weeks ago you were talking sort of like your collecting days were waning a little bit, but I'm still looking for a few things.
So I mean, and again, same thing back here. I went with different form factors, so there's no two form factors the same back there.
And it looks beautiful, so you did a great job.
Oh yeah, James. Now we could possibly next week. I did put the booty card into my 2GS.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
maybe
we can talk about that.
Just kind of talk about that. It's kind of a cool little bit of kit.
Sure.
Yeah, it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
All right. That's
great.
Really cool. Well,
I would say just as soon as you can, one, rip out all the batteries.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't hurt to just make an inventory of like, all right, here's like, let's say everything before 1994. Start with that to
right. Yeah, and work your way forward. Sure.
Yeah, and practice on old stuff where you touch your Mac, because you don't want to be lifting pads off of a 840 AV or anything like that.
No. All right.
Yeah, those are the only tips I can give you.
Nice.
All right. So I guess we're set for next week then, John.
Yeah.
And we'll go ahead and end the show. Hey, thanks everybody out there
Thank you, everyone.
joining us. We had a lot of international participation.
Awesome.
Did you see?
I will take full credit for that.
Jimmy from Dubai was in there earlier too.
Oh, was he? Nice.
Yeah. Awesome. All right.
Yeah, talk about a collection. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Bye, guys.
All right. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye. Thanks.